Okay, let's start off by taking a look at some of the notable Week 16 matchups that are going to go a long way in deciding who gets into the tournament based on what happens Week 17. Danny Sanchez's 49ers get a force win over Matt Vane. Vane was unavailable to play, and that catapults Danny Sanchez into the jumbled mess in the NFC. He now is in contention to not only win his division, but also get a wild card spot. Stokes' Oakland Raiders, still only one loss on the season, improved to 14-1 and still have their sights set on the number 1 seed in the AFC. E-Dub's Tennessee Titans get a 33-28 victory over Joker's Pittsburgh Steelers. E-Dub's on a 6-game winning streak, including victories over Stokes and Joker along the way, so E-Dub's Titans are getting hot at the right time. Cody's Chiefs keep it rolling 31-17 over Philly's Houston Texans. For Cody, he's locked up a playoff spot in the AFC. He could still go either the 5th or the 6th seed depending on what happens Week 17. Reese's Miami Dolphins get a 31-30 victory over Roman's St. Louis Rams. For Reese, it's more of a playoff tune-up. He also has a wild card spot locked up regardless of the result. Roman needed this win in the worst way, came into Week 16 with a 1-game lead in the NFC West, and that lead is now gone as Roman falls back to the pack, is tied with not only the 49ers but also Prime's Cardinals, and is in that jumbled mess in the NFC of teams that also are competing for wild card spots. KJ's Green Bay Packers get a 28-20 victory over Stop Cheese's New York Giants. KJ locks up the number 1 seed in the NFC, and Stop Cheese already has the NFC East locked up, so both of those teams are going to the playoffs. The biggest win of the week comes at the hands of JD as his Falcons get a 22-3 victory over Nino's Minnesota Vikings. For JD, his season was on the line as far as the AFC South is concerned, because based on what happened in Tampa Bay as Guru's Saints get a 56-35 victory over Trump, if JD had lost this game to Nino, Guru would have locked up the NFC South before they even kicked off Week 17. So by winning this game against Nino, JD gives himself a chance to win the NFC South with a win and take it game against Guru. Winner of that game, Week 17, takes the NFC South. The ramifications for Nino is he falls back in the pack of the NFC. He does have a 1-game advantage, but he plays E-Dub Week 17. If he loses that, all hell could break loose, and I don't even want to try to dive into the tiebreakers, but we will try later on in the show. Cheese Jr.'s Lions get a 3-point win over Luca's Colts, and Cheese Jr.'s Lions stay in the race in that pack of teams just competing to make the tournament. And then Prime and his Cardinals get a 42-10 victory over the Eagles, and the Cardinals are now in that jumbled mess as they're tied for first in the NFC West and also one of the teams competing for that NFC wildcard spot. Let's start off with the AFC standings because they're simple and easy to read. The Bills and the Raiders both have the bye weeks locked up. Right now, the only thing to be decided is who's the 1 seed and who's the 2. Stokes has a force win over the ownerless Broncos Week 17, and the Raiders also have a victory over the Bills in the regular season, so they would stand to reason that barring a tank job by Stokes' Raiders, the Raiders will be the 1 seed and the Bills will be the 2 seed. The Steelers and Dolphins are both 12-3, and they're doing battle as we speak, as it's currently 14-7 Steelers in the second quarter. I'm watching that game as I'm doing this show. For the Steelers, a victory here locks up the 3 seed and would also make them match up first round against the Kansas City Chiefs, who are set in stone at the 6th seed. The Dolphins already beat the Chiefs head-to-head, so even if they lose Week 17 and the Chiefs win at 12-4 records, the Dolphins will get the edge. So the Dolphins are the 5 seed, the Chiefs are the 6th seed, and E-Dub's Titans are the 4 seed right now. However, if the score doesn't hold up in Miami and Reese's Dolphins do win, then all of a sudden E-Dub has a chance to steal that 3 seed with a victory over Nino's Vikings. So with this game already going on and E-Dub and Nino not underway, E-Dub's going to know before he kicks off whether that game has meaning for him or not, although E-Dub might still be motivated to keep Nino out of the tournament with a victory and then some help on the out-of-town scoreboard. And as I look down right now, the Steelers have taken a 21-7 lead. While the AFC is simple, the NFC is anything but, as right now only 2 teams have clinched tickets to the playoff spot, as KJ's Packers have locked up the 1 seed, and we have to scroll all the way down to the 8-7 New York Giants, who have locked up the NFC East and stopped Cheese. That means these remaining teams, Nino's Vikings, Prime's Cardinals, Cheese Jr.'s Lions, Roman's Rams, Guru's Saints, Danny Sanchez's 49ers, JD's Falcons, all competing for 4 spots. Now, 2 of those spots are going to come in the form of division titles, which means that Guru and JD, the winner of their game week 17, makes it to the tournament. The loser, it's going to be tough because, as you can see, another loss on your resume in this jumbled mess means you're probably not going to go. So, in my opinion, winner in, loser out. Falcons and Saints, that's their only ticket to the playoffs. I don't see a realistic path for the loser to get in. Maybe Guru gets in at 10-6 if he gets some help on the out-of-town scoreboard. I just don't see enough losses coming to warrant that. Let's talk about Nino. Nino takes on Edub this week. If Nino wins, he's in. He locks up the 5 seed. He can't win anything higher than the 5 seed because KJ's in his division, and KJ already locked up the 1 seed. This is where it gets tricky, though. If Nino were to lose, he falls back to the pack of the 10-win teams who all would have a chance then to catch him with a win this week. You talk about Danny Sanchez taking on Scott Bailey, and the Seahawks. Bailey is back from vacation, so Sanchez doesn't get an easy victory there. Roman taking on Matt Vane. You would think the Rams would be favored in that game. And I'm not sure off the top of my head who the Lions play. And the Cardinals play the Packers, but the Packers have nothing to play for and might actually be motivated to let the Cardinals win in order to attempt to keep Nino out of the tournament. So I'm going to scroll over now and take a look at conference victories and see if we can get any clues as to who has the advantage and the disadvantage. All right, well, what this tells me is it's going to be tough to keep Nino out of the tournament because the only other teams with 9 conference victories are the Cardinals and the Rams. One of those 2 teams is going to win the NFC West. So if Madden's tiebreakers are correct, the only way that Nino gets held out of the playoffs, based on what I'm seeing, is if Nino loses to Edub, Danny Sanchez beats Bailey, and then Roman or Prime win. And what that would mean is Roman or Prime or Sanchez would win the NFC West, and then those 2 other teams along with Nino would all have 9 NFC wins, and then tiebreakers are anybody's guess. I saw Stokes talking about on Facebook earlier that he thought Nino would actually lose out on tiebreakers based on the fact that he lost to Bailey, and these guys have beaten Bailey this year because Bailey was away on vacation. So yes, there's the path. If Nino loses, the teams to watch are the NFC West teams. If they all win, Nino's in trouble. If only 2 of them win, then Nino should be good to go. So that's the path to get the Vikings out, is an Edub victory and then all 3 NFC West teams winning week 17. As far as the other teams still in the race, it's going to be tough for Cheese Jr.'s Lions because their conference record is, they are 7-4, so they're going to need to win and need some help on the out-of-town scoreboard. Let's take a look at that scoreboard. So we already talked about the Falcons and Saints kicking off at 1 p.m. They are scheduled for Tuesday at, I think, 9 p.m. Eastern. The winner of that game is going to win the NFC South, and the loser, based on my projections, is going to be home from the playoffs. Another important game is Cheese Jr.'s Lions against Josh Garland's Bears. Cheese Jr. needs to win this game and get some help on the out-of-town scoreboard. Roman's Rams need to beat Matt Vane's Patriots to not only have a chance at winning the NFC West, but also have a chance at winning the division. We have Edub's Titans with what I don't think is going to be anything to play for, because checking in on the Steelers and Dolphins, the Steelers are now up 28-7. I expect Joker to close that out. So Edub, no matter what happens, win or lose, cannot be any higher than the 4 seed, but he can keep Nino out of the tournament with a win and some other things going right. But I would still expect motivation-wise Nino to probably be the favorite in that game. We have the Seahawks and the 49ers, another big game. Bailey going against Danny Sanchez. Sanchez has everything to play for. Bailey with nothing to play for. Prime Arizona Cardinals hosting KJ's Green Bay Packers. I believe this is the second year in a row they played each other, week 17, and Prime has everything on the line, everything in front of him with not only the NFC West, but also a chance at a wild card. So he needs to win this game, and it's going to be tough because KJ is the defending NFC champion. We'll see how motivated he is for that matchup. And then the Steelers and Dolphins are already underway, as we've mentioned. So let's go through some predictions. I'm just going to project this out, tell you what I think is going to happen. I'm going to take JD to beat Guru's Saints. JD beat him last time. I don't think Guru's beaten him any time they've played so far. JD to me is a guy that's won an AFL Super Bowl. The moment's not going to be too big for him. I think he probably has a better team. So I expect JD, despite being on the road, to go to New Orleans tomorrow and beat the Saints and punch his ticket to the playoffs. I do expect Cheese Jr. to beat Josh Garland, although I think that game could be close. Garland's a sneaky player. He was away for about half the season on vacation, so his record is skewed. He's giving guys his fits. I'm going to say Cheese Jr. finds a way to win, and the Lions stay alive depending on whatever happens elsewhere in the NFC. I do think Roman gets the win over Vane. Whether they play it or not, I think Roman's determined. He has everything on the line. His team is playing well. They've had some heartbreaking losses down the stretch, also some exhilarating wins. He's earned this spot he's sitting in. I expect him to get his 11th win this week in New England and Matt Vane's Patriots to continue their disappointing slide, although I do think Matt Vane is going to be motivated for the victory here. Speaking of motivation, I don't know if E-Dub's going to be as up for this game as he'd like to be. I do know Nino's going to do everything he can to make the tournament. I think the Vikings are going to win this game. It's just hard when you're a team like the Titans. You have your eye on the next week. You're thinking to yourself, I don't want anybody to get hurt. And then a team like the Vikings and Nino comes to town, and they just have to lay it all on the line. Now, the one thing you can't discount is E-Dub is a guy that thinks he can make a Super Bowl run. And getting Nino out of the tournament now is very advantageous to a guy like that. So I think it's going to be a good game, but I'm going to edge toward the Vikings here based on motivation and based on what's on the line. But E-Dub's on a 6-game winning streak, so it wouldn't surprise me at all if the Titans get this win and make the Vikings sweat out the out-of-town scoreboard. Seahawks and 49ers, I'm going to say Bailey loses this game. I don't know what his motivation is at this point. I think Danny Sanchez is finally starting to find his rhythm with the Niners, and Danny Sanchez is going to get this win and just make things super confusing in the NFC West. I do think Prime finds a way to beat KJ, whether it's KJ not being too interested in the game or Prime just being a damn good player and having the ability to beat anybody in this league. And I think the Cardinals find a way to win that game. And then, like I said earlier, the Steelers are going to beat the Dolphins, although it is 28-14, but the Steelers are driving. If my predictions come true, that would put the Cardinals, the Rams, the 49ers all at 11-5, which would make your NFC West champions the Arizona Cardinals and Prime. Prime would get the nod because they would all have a 4-2 division record based on Sanchez beating Bailey, but Prime would get the edge in the NFC record, only having 2 losses. So if Prime can beat KJ, I think Prime's going to lock up the NFC West. Also, based on my projections, that would put Nino in the 5 seed, leaving only 1 wild card spot open. And unfortunately for Cheese Jr., a hell of a year. It's tough to miss the playoffs when you get 11 wins. I think he'll be on the outside looking in, and he's going to be kicking himself about this NFC record of 7 and what will be 8-4 after that game. Go to the NFC South. It's going to be JD's Falcons who get the nod after I project them to beat the Saints. And what that leaves is 1 more wild card spot between the Rams and the 49ers. They're going to have a better conference record than Cheese Jr. And the problem is they're both going to be 9-3 in the conference. They're both going to be 4-2 in the division. They split their season series. Guys, I have no idea which way this is going to go. So to me, it comes down to Madden tiebreakers. I'm not going to get into, the 4th and 5th tiebreakers of the NFL. It's just which one of you is going to win the flip of the coin when it comes to Madden tiebreakers. But it's going to be an intense advanced session if my projections go that way. But all of this can be thrown off if Prime loses to KJ, if Roman were to lose to Vane, if Danny loses to Bailey. I think Danny losing to Bailey is something you want to watch out for because Bailey's motivated. He knows he's not making the tournament, but can at least impact the tournament. KJ, I don't know how motivated he's going to be, but these NFC playoffs are going to be so fun to watch. See how they all play out, guys. I hope we can advance a lot quicker than 48 hours. We advanced tonight on Monday night. I'm hoping we can get it done by Tuesday, if not midday Wednesday. But matchups are posted. Get those games in, especially the ones that matter for the playoffs. And playoffs are right around the corner. Hopefully we can draft on Sunday. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on AFL Advance.